Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to my history class. I won't be here for the next 2 days, but this should be the last time I'm ever absent for the rest of the year. So we'll just do this via recording. I hope everybody takes out a piece of paper and titles this Judaism. That's what we'll be learning about over the next 2 days. This is the third religion in the religion unit. I want to remind everybody that I'm teaching this stuff not to sway your spiritual beliefs. You don't have to really believe any of the religious doctrine here. This is just to understand different cultures of the world as mandated by the state of Nevada. So, ba-bam! Got that in there. Okay, and if I'm ever going too quickly for anybody in the class, please inform the substitute, and they can sort of pause the video, let you guys get caught up on any notes in case if I'm going too fast. So there you go. Anyway, I hope everybody's got started. Let's move on. Judaism. Today we'll learn about the religion. Tomorrow we'll learn more about these people's history. So, start off with symbols of Judaism. The first one we got here is the Star of David. It looks sort of complicated, but it's actually pretty easy. It's a triangle inscribed with a down-facing triangle. So it's really two triangles together, creating a six-pointed star. Another symbol of the Jewish religion is this, the menorah. It's a seven-candled candelabra that's always sort of made in this concave fashion here. But yeah, these are two very important symbols of Judaism, and they will come up on the next test. So make sure you have both these down in your notes, know what both their names are, and cool. So I'll be moving on. If you need more time, shout out. Star of David, menorah. Alright, the Jewish people, they have a couple different names, and these all come up in world history. So, first of all, Jewish people. Second of all, Hebrews. Third, Israelites. Fourth, Semitics. And Semitics, that one I'm sort of throwing in there because it comes up later in history. But the Jewish people, really resilient people, big fan. They trace their history through their holy book called the Torah. And today it's all about the Torah. Pretty much everything I talk about, straight from it. And a lot of you are going to be sort of confused because the Torah is almost the exact same book as the first half of the Christian Bible. I think it actually could be the same book. So some of you will say, Mr. Brown, Christians believe in this stuff too. Well, hey, we'll get there. Christianity is the next religion we'll talk about. But there are some big differences between Judaism and Christianity. Today you are going to hear about a whole lot of the similarities. So here we go. Chapter 1 of the Torah. God creates the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rests. They have a story about Adam and Eve, the first two people to ever live. Eve got a little interested in an apple from the tree of knowledge. She takes a bite, God gets mad, kicks him out of paradise, and Adam and Eve have to live in the real world. Adam and Eve have two children, Cain and Abel. Cain is sort of this evil bad kid, kills his brother Abel. God gets really upset. God sort of watches civilizations develop for about 1,000 years, and he sees that sort of Cain's evilness is still there. So he finds this guy named Noah, who's sort of the last good guy in the world, says, hey Noah, I'm going to destroy the world except for you. So you've got to find all the animals and put them in a boat and save them, because I'm going to destroy the world. And so Noah saves these animals, and then his family sort of keeps on living. Later on in this story, they talk about these two cities named Sodom and Gomorrah. These were cities where there was a lot of gambling, a lot of sinning, a lot of, scantily clad women. And God got really upset with all the sin of these cities, and so God destroys them. And that sort of is a lesson that you should not gamble or indulge in. Basically, they're pretty much talking about Las Vegas. Let's be honest here. Okay, and everything also depicted in the Christian book of Genesis sort of all right there in the Torah. So let's check it all out. Ba-bam. All right, monotheism. This is a very important concept, and the Jewish people sort of created it, which is our religion. There's one God, this one super powerful entity that's going to make all the decisions and sort of controls the whole universe. And this is big, because if you remember, in the Greek religion, people sort of always had to keep updates about all the different gods and who was on top. Different cities had their favorite gods. Sparta was all about Ares, Athens was all about Athena, and it created a lot of conflict when there were many gods. Hinduism, sort of one god, sort of 1,000 gods, is really unclear, but the Israelites, the Jewish people, they established, we got one God, and he does it all. So God is this all-powerful super being, and the Jewish word for God is Yahweh. I think you saw Jehovah on the last slide, but Yahweh, I think, is how you would also say it in Hebrew. And I know that's what I have on the test. So, Yahweh. Let's do it. All right, there's Yahweh looking over the world, doing his thing. Okay, now what happens when you die? That's been a question I brought up with every religion we've talked about. And the Jewish people, they're not really that concerned about what happens when they die, which is really interesting, because I would think that's a pretty big question people have when thinking about their spirituality. But Jewish people tend to say that living a good life in this world is our number one goal. We want to be spiritual people, have as best a life as possible we can. When we die, there is an afterlife, but it's like everybody goes to heaven. It doesn't really matter if you're, a little bad, a little good. Y'all go to heaven. I did talk to a Jewish friend who said there sort of are some minor differences in the level of heaven. The way that he presented it to me was, heaven is like a nightclub for everybody. But if you're a really good person, you get to sit at the VIP table. So that's an expression he had. Yep, all Jewish people go to heaven. So that's kind of cool, I guess. Yep, but they're very different from Buddhists. If you remember, Buddhists generally say, hey, this world, we don't really care. Jewish people, they really care about this world. They're not focusing on the next life. There's no Jewish nirvana to be achieved here. All right, moving on. So, a very famous Jewish prophet, who's sort of seen as the semi-founder of this religion, is a guy named Abraham. And Abraham was living his life in modern-day Iraq, and he starts getting messages from God, and God sort of like is testing Abraham and says, Abraham, do you believe in me? Abraham's like, oh yeah, you're like God, you're super cool. And so God says, all right, Abraham, I want you to kill your oldest son. And Abraham's like, what? I love my son. I'm a good guy. God, why would I do this? And God's like, no, you got to do it. Do it. And so Abraham, as you see in this picture here, takes his son up to the top of a mountain, gets out a knife, and he's like trying to talk to God. God, you really want me to kill my son? I mean, I don't want to do this, but you're telling me to, so I guess I'm doing it. And here's the whole passage here from the Torah. And as Abraham is sort of swinging his knife down, about to just cut into his boy, God sends in an angel, and the angel sort of switches his son with this ram nearby. Why did it have to be a ram? Come on, Rancho, come on. But anyway, so as Abraham's hand comes down, Abraham does not kill his son. He instead kills this ram. And Abraham sees this angel, and he's like, oh, thank you. And God then talks to Abraham and says, Abraham, I'm so impressed with your devotion to me and your belief that I'm good and that I would never actually make you kill your son. Abraham, you're my main man. And I'm going to give you all kinds of numerous descendants and prosperity for you and all of your descendants. And a lot of Jewish people do say that Abraham is sort of their super great grandfather. Yeah, so cool guy. Good thing he didn't kill his own son. Angel came in, switched it up. So anyway, there's Abraham's family doing their thing. Abraham almost killing his son, but angel swoops in, switches him out. Okay. Later chapters in the Torah tell stories like Exodus, and you're going to see some videos about Exodus today. The Jewish people are having a bad time. Later in history, they get enslaved by the Egyptians, and the Egyptian king, the Pharaoh, making them do all kinds of hard work, treating them terribly. And the Jewish people eventually do get a message from God, and God decides to talk to this Jewish guy named Moses. And God says, hey, Moses, I'm basically going to give you superpowers to help get the Jewish people out of Egypt and out of slavery. And so Moses really does try to sort of diplomatically get the Jewish people out. Moses meets with the Egyptian Pharaoh, and Moses is like, hey, Pharaoh, let my people go. Pharaoh's like, no, I like having slaves. Slaves work for me, blah, blah, blah. And so Moses says, okay, I'm going to start, doing these powers that God's given me, and I'm going to have 7 plagues descend on Egypt. And I think the first plague was something about locusts. Second plague, there was like sand. I don't remember all the plagues, but the last plague was really bad. And, all these terrible things are happening in Egypt. And Moses goes to the Pharaoh and is like, yo, Pharaoh, I've got one more plague, and it's a bad plague. Will you let my people go? All these terrible things will stop happening in Egypt. Just release us from slavery. And Pharaoh's like, no way. And so the 7th plague, God came down and killed the oldest son of every Egyptian family who wasn't Jewish. And the Pharaoh only had one son. And so that was pretty savage. But anyway, Moses comes to the Pharaoh the next day. Pharaoh's there with his dead son. And the Pharaoh says, okay, Moses, you can leave. And Moses rounds up the Jewish people. They walk all the way to the Red Sea, which is shown in this picture here. The Jewish people are like, hey, Moses, we don't got no boats. How are we going to get across the sea? Moses says, we're going to walk under the sea. And so Moses asks for God's help, and Moses sort of parts the waters of the Red Sea, and the Jewish people walk on the bottom of the ocean all the way to Israel. So there is historical evidence that believes that this event never really happened, that the Jewish people never really went to Egypt. But it's a story that's widely accepted and believed by this religion. So let's keep doing it. All right, here's some Egyptian hieroglyphics showing Egyptian slaves. Historical evidence doesn't believe that there were ever any serious amount of Jewish slaves, but hey, this is the story. There they are, whipping people, working hard for the Pharaoh, and doing more slave work. Pharaoh's being a jerk. And there's Moses parting the Red Sea, doing his thing. Ba-bam. All right. Moses led the people toward their holy land, the land of Israel. And that's where a whole lot of Jewish people still live today. And on the way there, he made a stop at a mountain called Mount Sinai. And on top of that mountain, he had one last communication with God. And God actually gave him this tablet here, or 2 tablets, called the 10 Commandments. And these commandments are, I would think pretty straightforward morals. You should not kill people, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't sleep with your friend's wife or your friend's husband. The 10 Commandments are telling you how to be a good person. And so these are sort of what Jewish people live by today. And this land here, this is called the land of Canaan originally, but the Jewish people go there and they change it to Israel. There's Moses receiving the 10 Commandments, and those are the 10 Commandments. So, yep, tells you how to be a good person. Pretty cool. All right. And the rest of the Torah has a lot more stories of the Jewish people, their love of their homeland. David versus Goliath, I've got a video about this you guys can check out. A dude named Solomon, who was a really hardcore guy. And a lot of these stories sort of have the same theme. If you are a good person, you believe in God, good things will happen to you. If you are a bad person and you turn away from God, then bad things will happen to you. So there is a mention in the Torah of a great king who will come and lead the Jewish people, who's called the Messiah. And I'm going to show that in the next slide. Here's the thing. The Jewish people are still today waiting for this Messiah. Their Messiah has never come, and they're hoping for their Savior will one day come to earth. So that's a key difference with the next religion I'm going to talk about. So anyway, here's David and Goliath. The story is David was this little guy who was in the Israeli army. This huge enemy army comes, and they have this one super soldier, this dude named Goliath, and Goliath's like, I'm gonna kill you, and David's like, I got a slingshot, and David hits him in the head with a stone, hits him, I guess, right in the temple, which kills Goliath. So it sort of shows you that the weak can beat the strong if they have the skill and the intelligence to do so. So I think it's a pretty cool story, and you get to watch that today. And, yep, that's King David, the greatest king of the Jewish people. And here's a whole bunch of passages from the Jewish Torah about this Messiah who's going to come and what he's going to do. The Messiah, he will, he's king. The leaders of the other nations look for him for guidance. The Spirit of the Lord will be upon him. He will have the fear of God. He'll have the knowledge of God fill the world. All the dead will rise again. So hopefully you see sort of some foreshadowing here for the next religion I'm going to talk about. But yeah, the key difference is Jewish people have not had their Messiah yet, and they are still waiting today. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and watch the rest of the videos I have for today. I've got another lesson tomorrow about the Jewish people's history. Peace out.